magsalita tayo. Non-verbal often communicated through facial expression, hand gestures, postures, and even appearance. So even, di ba po, kahit hindi tayo magsalita, we know kung ano, in a way, we can know what the other person is trying to say, parang gano'n. Visual includes signs, maps, or drawings, as well as color or graphic designs. So, yun po. Next, elements of communication. There are elements of communication po para masabi natin complete siya as a process. So sender, this is the person who is initiating the communication or sending the message. Next is encoding. This is the process of assembling symbols to communicate a message or simply put the process of putting thoughts into a symbolic form. So encoding, it happens dun sa thought natin. So how we process what the sender is trying to say. Message, it's the set of symbols that the sender transmits or the content of the communication. Next is media, is the channel of communication that is used to transmit a message. It can be a verbal, it can be through email, through text, through phone call, or through media. Decoding is the process of interpreting the message or the process by which the receiver assigns meaning to the symbol in a message. Receiver is the second party communication process. Response, it is the reaction of the receiver decoding the message. And then feedback, it is the part of the receiver's response which is communicated back to the sender. Okay po, may question po tayo sa elements of communication.
Wala naman po so far.
So let's go to the next slide. So what are the communication styles? We have 3 styles of communication. Aggressive communication is a method of expressing needs and desire that does not take into account the welfare of others. So aggressive, yung parang kung makuha lang nila yung gusto nila, regardless kung ano yung ma-feel nung kausap nila, hindi nila yon tinitake into consideration. Then the other style is passive, which individuals have developed a pattern of avoiding expressing their opinions or feelings, protecting their rights, and identifying the meeting the need. So si aggressive, ang counterpart niya is si passive. Tanggap lang siya ng tanggap. So si passive communication, ito yung style na hindi sila nag-express na opinion nila just to avoid any conflict. So tatanggapin lang nila lahat. Assertive, ito yung win-win sa lahat. It is the ability to express positive and negative ideas and feeling in an open, honest, and direct way. It recognizes our rights while respecting the rights of others. So it's like taking and also giving back in a way that will be respected pa rin sa kausap natin. We're not aggressive, we're not passive, we are being assertive. Okay po? May question po dito?
Po, ma'am.
Okay. Let's go to the next slide. So we have barriers of communication. What are the barriers that we may face? So environmental and natural condition that as a barrier in sender to. So it now physical barrier of the pandemic, we're doing online class, but we're making our best effort to face that barrier that we are experiencing. Then we have perceptual barrier. It is anything that prevents us from yung paano natin see yung message. Sinabi ko siya in this way, but I perceive it in another way. Na-interpret mo siya sa ibang way. So, it is also a barrier. Next is emotional barrier. It is comprised mainly of fear, mistrust, and suspicion. So, if you don't, kung meron kang trust issues, eto yun, dito papasok yung emotional barrier. So, kung hindi ka na nagka-trust doon sa kausap mo, so you will have this barrier. Or if you have a fear on that content of the communication na meron kayo, this will take part of the communication barrier. Next is cultural barrier. It causes behavior and personality differences like body language, thinking, communication, manners, norms, which leads to miscommunication. Like, I'll give you an example. In in Gulf country, especially in Saudi Arabia, their culture is very tight and strict. So it doesn't mean hindi mo pwedeng kausapin si madam, mag-provide ng care kay madam dahil lalaki ka. It doesn't mean that they don't like you. It is just the culture itself. So we should not misinterpret that. We should always take into consideration the culture, the norms of the environment or the place itself. Next is language barrier. Ito mahirap. Fluent po ba kayo lahat? Ako,
Same tayo, ma'am.
ito yung medyo, talaga, number one siya. So, language barrier is inability to communicate using language. Is known as a language barrier to communication. Dahil iba nga yung nila dito, salita nila dito, yun yung number one natin na magiging problema. Unlike if they will be like fluent in English, wala namang sinasabi. Pero pagdating sa pag-Arabic, we should learn. We should adjust kasi nandito tayo sa bansa. Kahit basic lang, so you will have communication with them. Then, gender barrier. Societal stereotypes assume gender roles and interpersonal differences can contribute to a communication gap between sexes. So, meron pa rin ganito sa society. Like, we will have the last say and those things. That is gender barrier. Next is interpersonal barrier. So, like withdrawal, rituals, work. So, if you are communicating with a person and the person is busy with ML, di ba? Push ng push, attack ng attack. Ayan, barrier yan. Hindi tayo magkakaintindihan dyan. Kasi, may sinasabi ka, pero sa kausap, ayun, nagpupush, nagpa-farm. So, hindi tayo magkakaintindihan. Yan yung mga type ng interpersonal barriers. Question po?
Wala naman po.
Okay, next slide. So, yung kaninang mga diniscuss natin, that's the basic of communication. Ito yung gagamitin natin being a caregiver. Therapeutic communication. What is a therapeutic communication? It is defined as the face-to-face process of interacting that focuses on advancing the physical and emotional well-being of the patient. So, ito yung gagamitin natin sa work natin. So, what are the therapeutic communication techniques? Sa communication, hindi lang basta mag-uusap tayo, yun na yun. Sa healthcare, meron tayong tinatawag na therapeutic communication technique and ito yung i-discuss natin. Number one is using silence. So, naniniwala po ba kayo and agree kayo na silence is communication din?
Yes po.
So, silence, at times it is useful not to speak at all. So, deliberate silence can give both nurses or the caregivers and patient an opportunity to think through and process what comes next in the conversation. And sometimes caregivers should always um, give time. We should give time to the patient and pace that they need to broach a new topic. So like, yun yung tinatawag nating dead air. Like, pag nag-uusap kayo, then we will have a break or a pause that is using a silence. And let's give the patient a chance to break the silence, to open up a new topic. Maybe pagod na si patient, and tayo, chika pa tayo. Alam niyo yun, we should always weigh the things. We should consider baka si pasyente ayaw niya na magsalita or gusto niya mag-rest. We should always take that into consideration. Then accepting. Sometimes it's necessary to acknowledge what the patient says and affirms that they have been heard. So, uh, with accepting, it's also like acknowledging. You acknowledge what the patient says, but not always accepting kasi baka mamaya mali na yung sinasabi mo. So, you acknowledge what they are saying. Sorry. And that say that you understand, that you have noted it, and then that part, doon na papasok yung pag-explain natin kung mali man yung sinabi nila. Okay? Then giving recognition. So recognize the patient's behavior um, and highlight it without giving any overt compliment. So let's say ang patient natin mahirap pa inumin ng gamot and suddenly ininom mo siya without you having or giving too much effort na painumin siya. So you have to compliment our patient. Yung mga small things na ginagawa nila na helpful, we have to compliment them, recognize them. Offering help, offering self. So, like I've said, yung mga patients, so they are sick, so they are feeling lonely. Like offering ourselves as a companion to them is really helpful. So, like example, we can, like simply sitting on the bedside will give them boost on their emotions. Hmm. So next is giving broad openings. So therapeutic communication is often sorry. So therapeutic communication is often most effective when patients directs the flow of conversation and decide what to talk about. So yun yung giving broad openings for what's on your mind today or how was your day. So it will give them the chance to open the communication or open the topic that they want to talk to. It is them, not us, who will decide what we will be talking. Okay po?
Okay.
Then active listening. So if someone is talking, you should listen to them. Seeking clarification. It is similar to active listening. So asking the patient for clarification when they say something confusing or ambiguous is important. Especially po if they are talking in their mother tongue in Arabic and we are not sure what they are trying to say, we should take clarification on that matter para maiwasan po natin yung miscommunication. Then placing the event in time or sequence. So these are asking questions about when certain things happened or occurred in a relation to other events that can help patients get clearer sense of the whole picture. So it should be like in sequence para mas na maintindihan natin. Next is making observation. So while talking to the patient, you should also be observant with uh, their gestures. Like you can say it kasi minsan like if the patient is not being honest, you can see it with their action or the way they talk. So you should make observations on that. Like giving medicine, they can just say that, yes, nainom ko na. But you have to observe, maybe tinago lang nila under the pillow or they just throw it somewhere. You should be observant. Then encouraging description of perception. So we should encourage patients to, especially this one, this is very effective with psych patients. Kung yung mga merong hallucinations, so this is very effective for them. So you will just ask them, what do you hear, or what does it look like to you? So you will understand how they perceive the information. And then encouraging comparison, especially if we are assessing the patient, let's say, for pain. This will be a effective communication if they can, especially if, but we should take into consideration that the patient should be, what do you call this one? Kaya niyang i-ano yung sarili niya. Okay, example, for pain. You will ask the patient the pain level. So the patient will say that, okay, ganito siya. From scale of 1 to 10, the pain is 8 or the pain is 7. And the patient have medicine para sa pain. So binigay natin. After 30 minutes to 1 hour, i-assess natin si patient. So how was the pain now? So that will be the comparison. We should encourage them to make comparisons, especially like for reassessing the situation. Then summarizing. So summarizing is frequently useful for nurses to summarize what patients have said after. So after all what have patients have said, we should summarize it, and we should like clarify or to make sure that we have the correct information. Then reflecting, so we should ask the patient what they think they should do, which encourages them to be accountable for their own action and have them come up with the solution themselves, but then with assistance of the family and from us if we need like for others. Then confronting, this should be like a confrontation. This technique applied if they already established trust. Like if bago pa lang tayo sa patient and we are doing confrontation with them, parang ano siya magkakaroon siya ng barrier between us and the patient. So we should always build rapport and trust. So it could be voicing doubt. It can be gentler way to call attention to the incorrect or delusional ideas or perception of the patient. So we should always keep them in reality. And we should always examine their assumptions. And offering hope and humor. So especially matagal yung makakasama yung patient, you should be like friendly with them. We are, of course, we will keep the level of professionalism. But hindi naman masama minsan na to add humor, di ba? So yun po. Yun ang ating therapeutic communication. Any question po about this technique?
Wala naman po.
Wala naman po. So let's continue on the next slide. I is bar. Sometimes it's called S-bar. It is an acronym for facilitating health professional communication, ensuring clarity and completeness of information in verbal communication. By using a structured approach, one can avoid missing virtual information by consistently using the SBAR format for handovering the key that can anticipate what is coming next and be aware when important